Welcome, dear listeners. I'm Jonathan Carlin.
And I'm Benjamin Carlin.
And we invite you to join us through the Griffin door, your one-way ticket to the enchanting world of Harry Potter. So grab your wands and dust off your broomsticks and join us as we unlock the riddles inside Goblet of Fire, Chapter 15, Beauxbatons and Durmstrang.
Oh, I'm excited for this chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
Yes, this should be thrilling.
I think it's going to be thrilling.
Yeah. I think we're gonna have ourselves a whole boatload of fun.
A whole boatload of fun.
If I may.
Yeah, I think you may, Ben.
Oh man, as ever, guys, we got to take a look here at the chapter art for Beauxbaton and Durmstrang, which is going to depict the ship under which the Durmstrang students are able to somehow magically water frolickly
aqua travel. Yeah,
that sounds
I don't
better.
know.
Yeah, aqua travel.
Do you think so the ship arrives? Is it arriving like I don't know, is it like a submarine? Because the lake is not connected to like the ocean or anything.
No, yeah, it's not. I mean, if anything, it should be a freshwater lake, and
right.
So it's like there's sort of like a bizarre kind of magic involved where it's like, is this like a water-based flu powder situation?
I don't know. Yeah, it's like we know they can travel through fire. Can they also travel through water in some capacity? Because I don't not believe it. It's just like we never get any more details about this. But then at the end of this book, Ron's going to be like, how are they going to get back to Durmstrang? Do you think they'll be able to steer the ship without Karkaroff? And Crum's like, Karkaroff did not steer the ship. He was locked up in his cabin while we did all the work.
Which sounds terrible unless like how non-instantaneous is this method of transportation?
I know. I imagine it's pretty quick because it's not like the bodies of water are connected. So wherever they leave, they must just immediately be. How much steering was there at all?
I mean, a lot or none.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very confusing. It's very confusing. And the other thing that I feel like I've got to bring up about the ship in particular is that there are going to be extraordinary steps taken with the arrival of the ship to make it not sound as though it is backwards regurgitating from a toilet.
From a toilet?
From a toilet.
I don't think I noticed that.
Okay, I'm trying to find the specific pages where this description is happening, because I was just like, what is happening? Hang on one second, because I know I'm jumping ahead here, but it's important for our chapter art. Harry listened. A loud and oddly eerie noise was drifting towards them from out of the darkness. A muffled rumbling and sucking sound, as though an immense vacuum cleaner were moving along a riverbed. "The lake!" yelled Lee Jordan, pointing down at it. "Look at the lake!" Let's see here. The surface was suddenly not smooth at all. Some disturbance was taking place deep in the center. Great bubbles were forming on the surface. Waves were now crashing over the muddy banks. And then, in the very middle of the lake, a whirlpool appeared as if a giant plug had just been pulled out of the lake's floor.
Boy, it doesn't not sound like a toilet flushing, does it? If you open the back of a toilet and just watch what happens when you push the flusher, you're pulling a plug and the water's just rushing down.
Yes.
Yeah. Through the jets, making all of the bubbles.
Yes. And what's interesting about this particular version of toilet tech is that it's also the way that you get into the Ministry of Magic.
You're right.
You flush yourself in.
You flush yourself in. Oh my gosh. So there are two examples of travel by water.
Travel by water.
Or travel by flush, basically.
Right.
Right. So you're telling me that the lake flushes and regurgitates some ship.
I'm not saying it.
Okay. Just reading what's on the page.
Oh no.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Wow, this has been chapter art with Ben and Jay.
Yep. We're
off to a good start.
We are. We are. Things can only get better.
They can only get better. Okay. Anyway, moving into the actual chapter. If you recall from the last chapter, Harry has been freaking out because he finally heard back from Sirius, and Sirius says that he's coming back to the country, and Harry is like, oh no, I can't let that happen. It'll 1000% be my fault if Sirius gets caught by the Dementors and not like that Ratman person guy who lived in my dorm or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it won't be his. It'll be my fault. Me, Harry, Gaslight Potter, for sure.
Yes.
That's it.
Harry is so not easy on himself.
He is not easy on himself.
He's going to have generational trauma from existing inside of his own brain.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Fortunately for Harry, he wakes up with a fully formed plan in his mind, to which I said, sort of. I mean, it's a pretty bad plan. Well, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad plan. His plan is to send Sirius a note basically saying, hey, you know what? Forget what I said. Doesn't matter. Don't come back to the country. I was just kidding. But this is his note, okay? It says, Dear Sirius, I reckon I just imagined my scar hurting. I was half asleep when I wrote to you last time. There's no point in coming back. Everything's fine here. Don't worry about me. My head feels completely normal. Harry, believable Potter. Which to me, I'm like, dude, this took you all night to think of?
Yes. You basically wrote 2 sentences that both say the same thing.
And neither of which I just like when I read this, I can because we use Grammarly like on or I do when we're like writing our scripts for our main channel videos.
Yeah.
And I can just imagine Grammarly underlining all of this and being like, would you like to sound more assertive? Would you like to sound more confident in your writing?
Sounds redundant. Try again.
Sounds redundant. Maybe try phrasing it this way. And I'm like, hey, yeah, Grammarly would be ripping Harry to shreds here.
Yeah. That's well, I mean, to be fair, they don't have a language arts class. So.
Well, they don't, but still, come on, Harry.
No.
No.
But anyway, yeah. So he's got this fully fleshed out plan. Well done, Harry. I bet it'll totally work. And then he climbs out of the portrait hole and up through the silent castle, held up only briefly by Peeves. And it's just like, I mean, this again kind of goes back to the whole thing that we have about Hagrid and how he was like potentially framed by Tom Riddle for having the spider, because Hagrid, who is notably a half giant, is apparently down in like the dungeons next to the Slytherin common room taking care of Aragog. And it's like Harry is literally up and there's no one out in the castle. And he's still held up by Peeves. Who tries to overturn a large vase on him. You know, classic walking the hallways of your castle stuff.
Classic regular stuff. There is no consequence for this either. This is just like very tiny, like Life at Hogwarts world building sort of stuff.
It's true. Yeah.
It's just like Hagrid. It could very easily just say he climbed out of the portrait hole up through the silent castle, finally arriving at the Owlery, and you wouldn't blink.
You wouldn't blink. Yeah,
nothing would change.
You are missing no details whatsoever. Yeah. It's not like the Montague situation with the vanishing cabinet. Yeah, where it comes back up later.
Yeah.
But we do learn that the Owlery rather is situated at the top of the West Tower, which is just a little piece of trivia for us in the future that I'm certain we will forget, and we'll be like, at least it's one of 4.
It's one of those 4, and thank goodness, Ben, we just get a really detailed description of the floor. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't want to overstate it, but it might be covered in ship.
This is a very shippy floor. There's no doubt about it. It says the floor was entirely covered in straw, owl droppings, and the regurgitated skeletons of mice and voles.
Yes.
Great.
And then it doesn't even really stop there either. It's like this is clearly an area where it's like it is vitally important that you know about what the surface of the floor is, because it then says he spotted Hedwig nestled between a barn owl and a tawny, and he heard it over to her, sliding a little on the dropping strewn floor.
Dude, the thing about that bothers me whenever there's descriptions like this are like, they have magic. Like they could clean it up so fast.
Yes.
You know? And like we know, for example, like in this book, the house elves are introduced to us, the audience, as being the ones who are cleaning the castle, or at least cleaning the common rooms and stuff. And it's like, no one can send a house elf up to the Owlery to be like, snap, or like any teacher at all to be like, gone. Like, do the students need to be walking around on all of this ship? You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. It seems so just completely unnecessary, and yet there it is. Especially because when we go back to like the pre-edition of plumbing, a la the Chamber of Secrets being rerouted, what they would actually do is just go to the bathroom and then vanish it somewhere.
Right off the floor. Right off the floor, Ben.
Which also brings up a very interesting question, because it's sort of like the classic like Ravenclaw knocker question of like, where do vanished objects go? And then McGonagall is like,
into non-being, which is to say everywhere.
Yes, and but we know at Hogwarts. But indeed.
This is a great episode.
It's already off to a roaring start.
Yeah.
That there is the room of hidden objects, which I just have to imagine is where a lot of things are actually being vanished to, because by the time Harry gets there, there's just piles and piles and piles of junk.
There's more stuff in there than could possibly be accounted for number of students finding the room.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Which also makes me think that upon entering the room of hidden objects, it should be pungent.
It should be. I think you're right. It should be pungent. It also makes me think, that's like, when do they learn vanishing spells? You know, it's not like a year one sort of thing. Like, can you imagine this being a problem? Like, if you're a Muggle-born student and you arrive at Hogwarts and you go to the bathroom and they haven't installed the plumbing yet, you're like, what now? What now? And then like you gotta go, and you're like, I don't know how to. What do I do now? Like, what do I do? What do I do? Can you imagine having to like call a teacher like, Professor McGonagall, can you come vanish?
I need help.
We haven't learned. That would have to be like class number 1. You know,
it would be. It would be. Oh my gosh, this is so good.
There is literally, in case you're wondering, there is a whole article on the Pottermore archives about the plumbing being installed in the castle and how they didn't used to have it. And this is what they did. I'm not sure why that was information we needed, but it exists. You can find it. We're not just like riffing here.
No, this is true.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So Harry's sliding across the floor, probably doing like some figure skating type maneuvers.
Probably.
He's like, well, now that I know I can slide, I may as well do like a pirouette or something.
Yeah, the triple axel or something.
Oh yeah, there we go. You thought of a better figure skating maneuver than I did. All right, let's see. Then he goes over to Hedwig, who is evidently still furious about his lack of gratitude the previous night, which completely reasonable. In the end, it was Harry suggesting that she might be too tired and that perhaps he would ask Ron to borrow Pigwidgeon. That made her stick out her leg and allow him to tie the letter to it.
But then he has the gall to say, just find him, all right? As if she didn't just spend the last 2 weeks doing that.
I know, yeah. It's like, Harry, she's good at this.
She's good at this, man.
It's proven.
Yeah. She is, I'm kind of on Hedwig's side here.
Right.
Yeah.
But then she proceeds to nip his finger rather harder than she would have ordinarily have done, hooted softly in a reassuring sort of way, and then she spread her wings and took off into the sunrise, and Harry watched her fly out of sight with the familiar feeling of unease in the back of his stomach. I highlighted and underlined this particular section because it reminds me so much of just a few months prior when Harry would have been watching Sirius on Buckbeak's back, flying off into the distance.
Oh, you're right.
You know, so he's normally doing it into the sunrise. He's watching Buckbeak and Sirius leave into the moonlight, notably.
Oh,
in the last scene, because it's the full moon night, because Lupin's whole transformation.
Exactly, you're right. Yes, absolutely.
And so it's kind of interesting because I think in that moment he's kind of got this feeling of like relief, and now he's looking at the sunrise rather, and feeling unease.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. That is a nice little parallel there.
Yes.
But then we get to breakfast where Harry decides he's going to tell Ron and Hermione about his amazing plan. And Hermione says, that was a lie, Harry. To which I said, and a pretty bad one.
Yes.
Yeah. She says, well, you didn't imagine your scar. How didn't you know it? And he's like, well, duh. I know I didn't. I know I'm lying. Come on. And he says, so what? He's not going to back to Azkaban because of me. To which I just crossed out me and wrote Peter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. He is the one to blame here, Harry.
He's
not
the one to
you.
blame. Yes.
Although this is a rare moment where I feel like Ron seems to be understanding Harry's emotions better than Hermione.
True.
And he's basically just like, drop it. And Hermione like listens.
Yeah.
And
Rare as well.
Right. Yes. So, but I think in this particular situation, it must just be the case that both Ron and Hermione even are recognizing like that Harry is just always going through a lot, and he is like, they can extend him the grace that is, you sent a bad letter to Sirius, but we kind of understand how you got there.
Right. We understand how you got there. There's nothing we can really do about it. So,
Right.
Yeah.
You can't click on send.
Also, you told us what you wrote, and like we already kind of realized it's not going to work. So
It's like, we know Sirius and we know your writing was bad, so it's fine.
Yeah, Hermione's like, it's good. If only you let me correct it, I might have made it better, but then I wouldn't have let you send it. So,
Yes.
Then I highlighted this dude. The next sentence says, Harry did his best not to worry about Sirius over the next couple of weeks. Okay, that might seem like a very innocent sentence, but we are on chapter 15. And as we've mentioned a few times, each chapter has been moving forward about 1 day at a time.
Yes.
So that means every chapter to this point if we're on chapter 15, that means only about 14 days have passed since the beginning of this book. And now, in one sentence, Harry did his best not to worry about Sirius over the next couple of weeks. 14 more days will pass.
We should have told people
sentence.
to hang on to their butts.
I know, get ready to fast forward here.
Yes.
Yeah. That's just, I think it's funny to me how sort of like the beginning of the book can go so slow, and then it'll just be like, it was late February, and you're like, oh, I guess nothing much happened. Harry just went to class for a couple of weeks.
And it's so unlike Harry too, because like every time, and I mean, maybe it's just because we're so biased, because every time we get the reports, but like, I can't believe this means that he went to 2 weeks worth of potions where like nothing noteworthy happened.
Nothing happened,
like Snape didn't try to like poison him or say anything terrible.
Yeah.
Or,
just a regular day down in the dungeons.
Exactly. Just hanging out, just regular class.
Just learning, hanging out with some scroots,
right?
Planting some plants or whatever.
Maybe when you look at it this way, maybe Snape isn't so bad. You
know what I think is great about herbology, speaking of plants, is that like, can you imagine if part of your every year curriculum at school had just been gardening? Like, wouldn't that have been great?
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it either. If they were just like, hey, guess what? This year we're growing tomatoes, and next year we're going to grow okra, and we're going to learn about pH levels and soil and how to till land and stuff. I'd be like, this was tremendously useful. Thank you. Great. Yeah. Excellent.
Although in fact, I do remember going to a summer camp when I was a kid that was only 1 week long, and I did have a gardening class in a greenhouse. And I was like, this is really exciting, except I feel like there was a piece of me that was kind of like, does anybody else see the issue? Yeah. That 1 week is not enough time to grow these plants.
Really growing. It's enough to get like a bean to sprout.
It's enough to get a bean to sprout. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure we made those things that like, they grow grass out of their head. You put like little googly eyes.
Yeah.
And I think the grass was starting to sprout by the time
there you go.
Friday rolled around. So
yeah.
Worth it.
Anyway, just, through the Griffin door for gardening in schools.
Yeah. That's our
as an everyday class. That's math, then gardening.
This is our official position.
Yeah. And personal finance, but that's a different story. Anyway, moving on. Let's see. They says their other lessons are becoming more difficult and demanding than ever, particularly Moody's defense against the dark arts, which I highlighted on my first pass, and I thought like that's surprising. Like he's actually doing like a really like effective job teaching them and giving them hard lessons and stuff. Cause like, he's not really a teacher.
No, right. He's not. Yeah. I mean, it says particularly Moody's defense against the dark arts. To their surprise, Professor Moody announced that he would be putting the Imperious curse on each of them in turn to demonstrate its power to see whether they could resist its effects. And it's like, yeah, you're kind of like, this is where at first I feel like it can feel very much as though the like miscues with Moody are being like unfairly used against you.
Right. Because like this is a step too far. It's like, it's unfair for him to be the twist villain if he's also going to do this.
If he's going to be like a super diligent teacher.
Yeah.
But maybe there's a reason.
Yes. I think, and here's what I think the reason is that he is being a very good defense against the dark arts teacher, specifically because he wants Harry to win the Triwizard Tournament.
Yes.
Like that's his actual plan, is to get Harry through the maze. So it benefits him for Harry to be really good against defense against the dark arts when he like gets into the maze and when he's down in the water or fighting the dragon. Like he is trying to train Harry, not to make him a better wizard, just to like give him as many edges as possible in the tournament.
Yes.
Because like as far as and then like even the Imperious stuff, it's like to him, I think he is just like putting the class under the Imperious curse for the literal joy of it, perhaps.
Maybe.
Yeah. But like then you're like, well, then why does he like insist that Harry knows how to throw it off? Because to him, it is arrogance. Like even if he teaches Harry to throw it off, that doesn't really matter because in his mind, Voldemort is the greatest wizard that has ever lived, and like Voldemort will not have trouble with Harry.
Right.
Like he doesn't see Harry as a threat. He's just like, yeah, whatever. You're just some dumb kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And if you're sitting there thinking like, well, how do we even know that he's already trying to manipulate the Triwizard Tournament and the Goblet of Fire and everything else that's going on? For one, we can go back to Bertha Jorkins because Bertha Jorkins worked in Ludo Bagman's department.
Yep.
And therefore would have known that the Triwizard Tournament's coming up, and this
Yep.
is all part of like why they go and break Barty Crouch Jr. out, and like why he's impersonating Moody, and blah blah blah. But even beyond that, in just the last chapter is when Moody is going to give the magical water plants of the Mediterranean to Neville, and so like even that, like he's already planting the seed, no pun intended. For Neville, someone who is sleeping in Harry's dormitory, to be able to help Harry figure out how to breathe underwater.
Right.
Something that Harry won't ultimately turn to, but is in fact a tactic employed by Barty Crouch Jr.
Yes.
So yes, 100%. He is definitely teaching them as hard as he is able to do so because he's just not concerned that there's a world where Harry gets to the graveyard and Voldemort loses.
Right. Like he's not like there's no world where I train Harry and like I can teach Harry everything I know and it won't matter. Voldemort will slash him down with no problems.
Right.
Yeah. That's his opinion of Voldemort.
Yep.
He also I feel like is maybe a little hint that it's the imposter where Hermione says that that it's illegal to put the Imperious curse on people, and he says, well, if you'd rather learn the hard way when someone's putting it on you so they can control you completely, fine by me, you're excused, off you go. But to me it's like I don't think it would be fine by the real like he would not say, the real Moody wouldn't say that because it would not be fine to him if Hermione just like skipped this lesson.
Oh, right. Yes. It would go against his ideology of constant vigilance.
Right. Constant vigilance. Exactly.
Right. The real Moody would never be like, leave. He would explain, no, this is why you have to learn this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I think it's funny where it says Hermione went pink and muttered something about not meaning that she wanted to leave, which is just funny because like her need to be right, even when she disagrees with herself, is like so strong.
Yes.
She's like, but the rules say this. I mean, I don't agree with the rules, but I have to tell you that they are there.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep. And I love Harry and Ron grinned at each other. They knew that Hermione would rather eat booba tuba pus than miss out on such an important lesson.
I literally highlighted Boober Tuber Puss. It just said stop because the number of times Jim Dale has read Boober Tuber Puss into my ears into this book. I'm just like, why? Stop writing this word.
Booba tuba pus, Finnegan.
It comes up again later in the book too, Ben.
We can never get enough, can we?
Yeah, you can't get enough Boober Tuber Puss.
It does feel like it should be like the what is it, the Deus Ex Machina, where it's like the mandrakes.
Yeah.
Like it seems like they should be coming up in some capacity.
Yeah. Why don't mandrakes come up again?
Right.
You know?
I don't know.
They're not. Yeah, it's because it's not year 2 anymore because the chamber's not open. You
Right.
know?
We're good.
We're good now.
Right.
Yeah.
We've moved past it.
Yep.
Anyway, so now Moody began to beckon students forward and turned to put the Imperious curse upon them. Harry watched as one by one of his classmates did the most extraordinary thing under its influence. Dean Thomas hopped 3 times around the room singing the national anthem. Lavender Brown imitated a squirrel. Neville performed a series of quite astonishing gymnastics he would certainly not have been capable of doing in his normal state.
Boy, that's an interesting one.
That one is kind of fascinating because gymnastics, as anybody who's ever watched any of it would be vastly aware, is that it is a physically demanding endeavor.
Right. Like it's like this kind of suggests that the Imperious curse makes you able to do things you couldn't normally do.
Right.
Or else it's suggesting that Neville has the muscle tone and balance and all of the actual like physical requirements to do gymnastics. He just like doesn't like know how.
Right.
It's like Barty Crouch knows how to do the gymnastics so he can tell Neville, and good news, Neville's body is ready for gymnastics.
Right.
And can do it.
But if not Neville who can physically do it, then it probably means that Barty Crouch Jr. is quite the connoisseur.
Oh, for sure.
Of gymnastics.
Probably while he's been stuck under the Imperious curse for 13 years, laying in bed at his dad's house, he was like, "I'm just going to put on like the Muggle Olympics for you."
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just binge this.
Yeah, you can just watch. Who would have been the Olympic athletes in 1994? That would be the Winter Olympics, right? Yeah, that would have been. So 1992 Summer Olympics gymnasts. I don't know, but clearly he was picking up some stuff.
He was picking up some stuff.
He was picking it up, man.
He was into it.
Right.
Yeah. Back handsprings.
I was only 4 then, so I don't know who that was.
Yeah. But anyway, then Moody goes, "Potter, you next." This is again just like a little bit of a contrast to last year, where when Lupin is teaching the lesson on boggarts, Harry rather significantly is not included in the lesson. However, this is sort of like the twist.
The reverse,
where Moody is pulling it forward. So I don't know that is necessarily like something where it's like, ooh, that's suspicious. But it is interesting that it's like they're both the real first practical like examination type classes that these two teachers do, and they handle it so differently.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, that is very interesting. So he gets the Imperious curse put on him, and it says, "It was the most wonderful feeling," which I think it's very interesting because this is like an unforgivable curse, but it actually doesn't like hurt. It actually feels really good.
Yes.
Even though it is quite bad. And just like the way it was all worded, it reminded me so much of in the first Avengers movie of all things, when Loki is like emerging and giving his little speech in Germany, I think, after he steals the guy's eye. He says, "This is the unspoken truth of humanity, is that you crave subjugation. The bright lure of freedom diminishes your life's joy in a mad scramble for power." So like that, this is what he's saying. Like his philosophy is the Imperious curse. Like if you just listen to me, you will feel amazing and wonderful and light. You'll have 0 choices and you'll have to do everything I say, but it'll feel great.
Right.
Yes. So if you're imagining the Imperious curse, or like, look, that's Loki's philosophy. I know that's not related to Harry Potter,
but you know what?
Yeah.
We can cross paths every once in a while here.
Yeah.
With the old MCU. But yeah, so I mean, and then the other really big one, and I actually had a note that I brought up back several chapters ago from page 103.
Oh, okay.
Because the actual description of what it feels like to go under the Imperious curse is incredibly similar to that of the Vila dance, which if we jump back to that, it says the Vila had started to dance and Harry's mind had gone completely and blissfully blank. All that mattered in the world was that he kept watching the Vila, because if they stopped dancing, terrible things would happen.
Yes.
So maybe not like an absolute blow for blow, but I mean, you can't deny the difference.
Blissfully blank, right?
Yes.
And it says it was the most wonderful feeling. That's blissful. And it says every thought and worry in his head was wiped gently away, which is blank. That's the exact same. It's just differently worded.
Right. And I mean, it feels like it's no mistake that both of these concepts are being introduced in the same book and are so similar to one another.
Yes.
So I definitely think that like whatever Vila magic happens to be is closely connected to
the Imperious curse. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree with you. And it seems like it feels like, whatever the Vila magic is, it's like emanating out as like a diet version of the Imperious curse. And it really only has like one command, like when you're doing the Imperious curse, you can give the person any command,
right,
and they'll have to do it. But it seems like the Vila magic is like only ever giving one command, which is "I'm beautiful."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's very like them centric.
Them centric, indeed. But to this exact point, like in this class, Harry is going to successfully throw off the Imperious curse,
right?
No problem. And then for the rest of the book, he will not be charmed by Fleur ever again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. And I think that is no mistake.
No mistake.
And it's also interesting because like I think even like Ron is even more susceptible to the Vila music than Harry is. But like I think like even like Arthur does a better job of like
resisting it.
Yes, exactly. Let's see here. Because it says Ron, meanwhile, was absentmindedly shredding the shamrocks on his hat. Mr. Weasley, smiling slightly, leaned over to Ron and tugged the hat out of his hands. "You'll be wanting that," he said, "once Ireland have had their say."
Yes.
Which I want to bring that up here in a couple of minutes as well, specifically with Arthur, because I feel like it says something very big about Arthur.
I agree. I think I know what you're going to say, but
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, Harry has the curse put on him, and just immediately it says, or he starts telling him to jump on the desk, and on the very first try, another voice awakes in the back of his brain and says, "Stupid thing to do, really." It says, "Jump onto the desk." He says, "No, don't think I will, thanks," said the other voice, which I love how polite his other voice is.
Yes, but I also want to say that I think that this is something of significance.
Yep.
Because somebody certainly out there is thinking, like, I wonder if they're going to bring up whether or not the other voice in the back of his head is that of Voldemort.
Nope.
And I don't think that it
No
is
way.
at all, specifically because of what it takes in order to fight the Imperious curse.
Exactly, Ben.
Which Moody himself, I believe, is about to explain it to us. Or let's see here, making sure I got my details right.
Got it right there. You think what he says is that it takes real strength of character to throw the curse off.
Yes. And that I think is the really big deal.
Yes.
Because it's not like strength of willpower or strength of determination. It is like this inherent goodness inside of somebody that is what makes them capable of counteracting the curse itself.
Yes.
And so it's like when you go to Arthur, it's like Arthur, I think, is just an innately good, kind, humble human being.
Yep.
I like the fact that in this particular situation, like Harry is going to be able to throw the Imperious curse rather quickly.
Yep.
And even the fact that like when he is counteracting it, he says, "No, I don't think I will. Thanks."
And
it's like the politeness I think is very interesting because this has always been one of my favorite characteristics about Dumbledore. And it will continue to come up in the chapters to come, especially when he's dealing with like Rita Skeeter and the other heads of Durmstrang and Beauxbaton.
Yeah.
Like Dumbledore's politeness is going to be just like utterly unfailing.
Yeah.
And I think that is also playing into Dumbledore's strength of character.
I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, I think there's like, that's why he is so like, it'd be very difficult to put the Imperious curse on Dumbledore.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think he would be able to throw it off pretty quickly. It's almost kind of reminding me of like the Dementors a little bit, where it just seems like all the bad guys are not affected by the Dementors in like a similar way.
Because you would think that for Voldemort, like, he says that when he's talking to Fudge, I believe what he says is that the Dementors are natural allies of Voldemort and his following.
Yeah.
And it's kind of curious because you would think that anybody being exposed to constant time around Dementors, i.e. prisoners of Azkaban, like the whole point of the prison,
right,
is for it to be a non-positive experience.
Right.
But if they're amongst the same ranks, it's like, you would think if you're a Voldemort, it's like, well, this is going to hurt my other people.
Right. Yeah. If you have Dementors around, like, wouldn't it affect them too?
Right.
But like, it doesn't seem to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, but then like, I don't know, but like Umbridge still has like the Patronus to like protect herself from the Dementors.
Umbridge is in that like weird gray area island of her own though, where she's not really a Death Eater. She's definitely not a good guy.
Yeah.
But also not in the same way that like Narcissa isn't a Death Eater.
Right.
It's like Narcissa is heavily associated, and she's almost like the secretary for the who's the person who like brings fruit to the soccer games? That's what I'm trying to think of.
Oh, like the team mom.
The team mom, not the secretary. That's not the word choice I wanted. Yeah. She's like Narcissa is more like the team mom
of the Death Eaters.
I like to think she brings like fruit slices.
Yeah, like they came back from the Battle of the Seven Potters. She's like, guys, I've got orange slices.
Yes, exactly. You need your vitamin
Good battle,
C.
everybody.
Way to go! High fives.
High fives. Yeah, we're not going to give them we're not going to go give them high fives though, because we wanted them dead.
Yeah. That was our goal.
Yeah,
there were 7 of them, and it would have been fine if they all died. Anyway, but so Umbridge is sort of in her own weird, mysterious, misty, dark gray column.
Indeed.
Anyway, so Yes. So then what we get is Moody being like, look at that, you lot. Potter fought. He fought it, and he darn near beat it.
Yeah.
We'll try that again, Potter. And the rest of you pay attention. Watch his eyes. That's where you will see it. Very good, Potter. Very good indeed. They'll have trouble controlling you.
The truest thing he says in the entire book.
It's like, you are dead on the money. Although I did cross out they'll and just put will.
Yes,
will
indeed.
have trouble controlling you.
Yeah, they will have trouble controlling him because Harry throws off the curse entirely after one class, which is super impressive when you consider that, like, Barty Crouch Jr. is a really powerful wizard.
Yes.
And, like, very cunning and all of that. But he is under the curse and unable to shake it for 13 years.
Right.
Basically, because, as the book would say, he has very poor character.
Very poor strength of character.
Yeah.
Exactly. And actually, another thing that I wanted to bring up about this, because I do think it's similarly fascinating, is that Cedric in the maze in particular is kind of a problem for Moody.
Yeah.
And the reason I think so is because he can put the Imperious Curse on Crumb, but all he can do is use Crumb to try to attack the other champions.
Right. He can't. He's like, it's not like, I'll just put Crumb under the Imperious Curse and put Cedric under the Imperious Curse.
You can't put Cedric under the
Can't put
Imperious
Cedric under the Imperious Curse
because he has strength of character.
Strength of character.
He's too good.
Yeah.
And
I imagine he had the same class with Cedric's grade as well.
Yes.
And learned this about him.
yes, exactly. So Cedric is a bit of a problem for Barty Crouch Jr.'s plan, and to the point where it literally is almost the problem. Like Cedric, the narrowest of margins ties rather than just outright wins.
Oh, he could have won.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that, like, Cedric just should have won the Triwizard Tournament.
But
like,
the same reason he just should have won is why he can't be controlled by the Imperious Curse, because he values fair play so highly.
Exactly.
Yeah. There it is. It all comes back to itself.
Oh, Cedric.
Oh, Cedric, indeed.
Okay, let's see here. So then, as we scoot forward, though, what we're also going to see is that Ron is skipping on every alternate step. He was having much more difficulty with the curse than Harry. And this, I think, fits perfectly with our Vila theory, because Ron will also struggle with Fleur for the rest of the book, basically.
Right. Yeah. And to be clear, like, this doesn't mean, like, just because Ron and, like, Hermione are susceptible to the Imperious Curse doesn't mean they have, like, low character or anything. Harry's is just exceptional.
Right. I mean, to the point where, like, the fact that this is one of the 3 unforgivable curses means it is a huge problem for people out there in the real world. But, like, Harry is a rather singular entity.
I mean, he's the chosen one.
He is the chosen one.
The chosen one.
So that's a good clarification, though, because people are going to be like, what about Ron, Hermione?
Yeah.
Especially Hermione.
Yeah. Oh, especially Hermione. Gee. No, Hermione. Yeah, she's very good character as well, for sure. Let's see. I think it's funny that Ron's like, when are we supposed to be reading up on resisting the Imperious Curse with everything else we got to do? Which, one, you'd think you'd read up on resisting it before it was put on you.
Yeah.
But 2, this seems like exactly the kind of, like, thing you'd be interested in learning about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also seems like the kind of thing that, like, 2 weeks have passed, which we brought up. We made a big deal out of that, which means it's been 2 weeks since they last had their first lesson on the Unforgivable Curses, which is the title of the last chapter.
Yep.
Which sort of makes you think that, like, if you walked out of that lesson and he was assigning you homework and he was planning 2 weeks from now to put you under the Imperious Curse, that the homework for the past 2 weeks should have been resisting the Imperious Curse.
It does seem like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess it wasn't. But then I guess he's also not a real teacher.
Yeah,
so
there's that.
there is that. Then there's the sentence that is in every book, which is all the 4th years had noticed a definite increase in the amount of work they were required to do this term. Like that sentence is in every single book, where it's like, boy, Harry and his classmates realized that they didn't even know what the meaning of work was this year.
Yes. I know what you mean. Although it does remind me of my own schooling, where it seemed like every single year, like, you'd be in 2nd grade and the teacher, would be like, now they're not going to tolerate this when you're up in 3rd grade.
They ain't going to tolerate it.
Then they say the same thing, going 4th into 5th. And they're like, when you're in middle school, when you're in high school, when you're in college,
you're going to have to handwrite in cursive 20-page essays.
Right. And if you forget to put your name on the test, they're just going to throw it in the trash can. And then the professor in college is like, no, I need to know, because I don't want you to fail my class.
Right. Yeah.
Education is the point of being here.
Right. Yeah. I'm not going to fail you over something as Something like that. Come on, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go. We're all trying to learn here.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're not like trying to make you fail. What would be the point of that? Yeah. Anyway, then we have a nice little setup for Order of the Phoenix here, where McGonagall tells them that next year they're going to have their ordinary wizarding levels. They're drawing closer. And then, Dean's like, we don't take them till 5th year. And is this the chapter where McGonagall is just like being super feisty with everyone? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yep. Yeah. So basically, like Dean's like, wait, we have like a whole year till we take OWLs, and then she's just basically like, I might remind you that your pincushion, Thomas, still curls up in fright if anyone approaches it with a pin. And it's like,
Sick burn.
Right. Yeah. So you can only imagine the Dean sitting there being like, well, geez, man.
I was just asking a question. Yeah. I know. It's like, because you just say, like, he brings it up and she's like, maybe not, but believe me, you need all the preparation you can get. Miss Granger is the only person in the class who's managed to turn a hedgehog into a satisfactory pincushion. That could be the end of the sentence.
Yes.
That could be the end of the thought. Like, look, you need preparation. One of our students is doing really good. Also, you're doing really bad.
You, Dean.
You, Dean.
Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Thomas. Yeah. Oh, dear. But on the other hand, they're doing quite well in divination, where Harry and Ron received top marks for their homework, where they just kept predicting bad things, which, as we went over in the last chapter, it's actually no wonder that they got top marks, because they actually just predicted a lot of things that are going to happen.
They did indeed. Yes. But they were less amused when she asked them to do the same thing for the next month after next. And both of them were running out of ideas for catastrophes, to which I was just sort of like, not to worry. Barty Crouch Jr. will help come up with some ideas.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. There's that. And then I think it's just funny where it says she asked them to do the same thing for next month after next month or whatever, where it's like, and it says, they were running out of ideas. And I'm like, boy, imagine having to come up with different Harry Potter theories for months on end. My goodness.
I know.
What would you do, Harry?
You'd think that you'd run out of ideas by now.
You'd run out of ideas.
Been there.
Been there, Harry. Heard. Oh, geez.
Meanwhile, Professor Binns, the ghost who taught history of magic, had them writing weekly essays on the goblin rebellions of the 18th century. Again. This is all they ever study. And,
I know.
And I just highlighted that one. I was like, Florian Fortescue, where are you?
Yeah, where are you? Gotta hear about them goblin rebellions, Harry.
Here's an ice cream.
I know. Like, is there anything in Wizarding history that isn't goblin rebellions?
I have no idea.
Doesn't seem like that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Professor Snape forced them to research antidotes. I saw though it says forcing them to. What do you mean forcing them to? That's just the lesson.
It's potions class. It's like this seems like a completely and very effective skill to learn.
I know. It's like, meanwhile in French we were being forced to learn conjugations, and it was like, well, yeah.
That's learning French.
That's learning French.
Yes. Yeah.
But notably, they're having to research antidotes in 4th year here. And fast forward to 6th year, they're going to be doing antidotes again. And the Harry is going to have no idea what's up.
He has
nothing.
Yes, he doesn't know how to do it at all, and just basically bust out the old Bezoar trick.
Yeah. Although later in this book, he is going to fail to put a key ingredient in his antidote, and that key ingredient is also the Bezoar.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. Like, Harry just lets all of this year just drip right out of his head.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he doesn't like Snape, but like, this is one of those sections where I'll be like, Harry, this is kind of on you.
It's like, hey, we've been over this.
Snape spent all of 4th year teaching you about antidotes.
Yes.
Or
Yes,
at least writing information about them on the chalkboard, and then sitting at his desk reading, I can only imagine, like gossip papers or magazines.
Which weekly?
Which weekly, probably.
Yeah.
Yes.
For the recipes.
Yes, for the recipes.
Right. Let's see here. Then we learn a bit about Professor Flitwick teaching them about the summoning charms, which again is kind of just like one of those details where it's sort of like, summoning charm is going to be the first charm that Harry will cast once he becomes a fully grown wizard.
Yeah.
And he is like, Osseo glasses.
Yep.
And it's important in this book because it's what he uses to summon the firebolt.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I just can't help but think that this again seems more of like a first year type thing. Whereas like teaching them in first year how to like open any locks.
Yeah.
You know, like they teach them how to open anything in year 1, but not how to summon stuff.
Seems like summoning stuff would be, the actual most 101 magic ever.
Yes.
Instead, Ben, he had them read 3 extra books in preparation for their lesson on summoning charms. They didn't even have to read about the Imperious curse until after they tried it.
Wow.
Meanwhile, summoning charms, 3 books just to get your mind ready.
Just
you get it.
Just to sit down for the lecture.
I know. Like what is going on? This doesn't seem like that. Even I don't know if it says simple spell in the book, but like in the movie, like this is like Moody. It's just like a nice simple spell is all you need. Simple, Potter. Simple spell. Summoning charm. Spell it out. Wink. Get it? Got it? You good? Cool. But no, apparently he doesn't have any idea about summoning charms because it's a 3-book lesson.
Do you think that Moody's magical eye can wink?
I think if it was like book canon, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Obviously the one in the movie can't because it's fake and stupid.
Attached with like a leather strap.
I know. Probably has like a footrest coming off it somewhere.
I was going to say, have we upset people with this take yet? Because
No.
I'm sure it's coming.
No one likes the strap on the eye.
Well, we thought that about the footrest too.
Ben, I'm positive about this.
Okay.
People could not be pro eye strap.
All right.
There's
all right.
no way.
Well,
Guys, don't let me down.
Yeah, right.
Don't let me down on the eye. You don't like the eye strap, right? Right?
You are so asking for it.
Ben, guys, come on. We good?
We're good.
Okay.
We're good.
We're good.
We're good.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah. Anyway, the blast-ended screws are getting much, much bigger, and Hagrid's basically suggesting that they come out every alternate evening to make notes and take them on walks, maybe?
Yeah. Draco Malfoy, I will not. I see enough of these foul things during lessons. I love how earlier in the page it says Hagrid suggested they come down, and then Malfoy's like, nope, and he's like, you'll do what you're told.
Yes.
It's like, oh, so now is it a suggestion or do I have to do it?
Right. I'm suggesting you do this. You have to.
You have to.
Yes.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Seems like you're just giving me extra classes all of a sudden out of nowhere.
Right.
Yeah. Your homework is come back to class.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Just more classes. That's
More
all.
classes. That's how homework works.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, either which way, Hagrid does have a zinger right back from Malfoy. He's you'll do what you're told, or I'll be taking a leaf out of Professor Moody's book. I hear you make a good ferret, Malfoy.
Wow. Inappropriate and a threat.
And people have an issue with Hagrid.
I know. Like, you wonder why Draco doesn't like you. It says, that said, Malfoy obviously had done his very best to get Hagrid sacked the previous year, to which I just said, and almost nothing else.
Yes, that is the entire point of Malfoy for all of Prisoner of Azkaban.
Pretty much. That's about all he does, is just pretend to be hurt by a hippogriff.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And then the students enter the entrance hall where the just possibly most popular bulletin board posting of all time exists.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, letting us know about the Tri-Wizard Tournament, and the delegations from Beauxbaton and Durmstrang will arriving at 6 o'clock on Friday the 30th of October, which is just a little piece of trivia there. Do you remember which day it is?
Yeah, like, are you aware that it's just one day?
Yes, because I mean, this is kind of, I mean, again, we don't know how long the toilet flush technology of the giant Durmstrang ship is.
Right.
But I mean, if it takes a long time, then like, what's the jet lag situation?
Don't know. I mean, probably
ship
the same
lag.
time zone, right?
I mean,
Yes.
probably so.
Yeah, if you're just traveling north to south, but who knows where Durmstrang is? It's a closely guarded secret.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But what we know for sure, though, is that they will arrive on the 30th of October, and then the Goblet will spit out the names one day later. On Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that. Lessons will end a whole half an hour early. Wow. Let's see. Then we get to hear the reaction from the other students. Ernie McMillan, that old DA lag, says, I wonder if Cedric knows. Think I'll go tell him. Like, okay, Ernie. Trying to like a little butt kissing over there. You know?
Yeah.
I was like, maybe I can get on the Quidditch team.
Yes, exactly. More than anything, I think this is just reminding us, the reader, of our likely candidate, because we're going to basically spend a lot of time with the silver-haired girl from Beauxbaton, Victor Crumb, and Cedric over the next few pages.
Yeah, there is some like red herrings thrown in there with Angelina and Warrington from Slytherin entering as well. But like, it's like, if you can't, like, you know, we've spent a bunch of time. Cedric was at the World Cup with them. You know, we've already been Amos.
Right.
Yeah. He's being set up pretty solidly.
He already beat Harry last year.
Yeah. Even last year, Cedric is being set up as the champion here.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. And then so Ron says, "What, that idiot, Hogwarts champion?" Which, yep, he will be. And then Hermione says, "He's not an idiot. You just don't like him because he beat Gryffindor at Quidditch." To which I'm like, Hermione, you were there. Everyone's insistence that Cedric beat Harry at this Quidditch match drives me crazy.
I know. It's like guys, there's a bare minimum an asterisk next to this particular match.
Yes, like the field was swarmed with Dementors. Okay, like there was a clear problem. Even Cedric himself was like, yeah, that really shouldn't have counted.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know why why is Hermione attacking Harry here? You know, she seems to be just trying to like argue with Ron for basically no reason.
Yeah.
But instead she's attacking Harry, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Harry's just like, oh, thanks, Hermione.
Yeah. But she also mentioned that he's a prefect, which is just light setup for the fact that he'll have access to the prefect bathroom later on, I guess.
That's a good point. Yes. And probably suggests that, yeah, he is a good student. He is like, has been elevated to a position of responsibility.
Yeah.
Though notably not a head boy. I guess he's only a 6th year.
Is that right?
I think it's right.
Because he has to be at least 17, right?
True.
Yeah. Do you think would just be 7th years?
Maybe he'd be like an old
6th year.
Like he's an old soul.
He's an old soul.
Yeah. Let's see here. We get a little bit. There's going to be like this hilarious teeter totter. I feel like between Ron and Hermione over the next several months when it comes to just all things dating, all things Triwizard Tournament, all things international relations. Because Ron's going to be like, you only like him because he's handsome, said Ron scathingly. And Hermione's like, excuse me, I don't just like people because they're handsome, said Hermione indignantly.
Yeah. He's going to be like, Lockhart.
Yeah. Which is kind of like, good point.
Good point. Didn't like him because he was good at magic, did you?
Nope. We know that much for certain.
No.
But it's going to end up being the case that like Ron is going to be completely like fawning over Floor when she arrives.
Yes, and her mind is going to be like, he's not even that good looking, talking about Crumb.
But then she's going to end up dating him.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so anyway, let's see here.
Harry noticed too that the castle seemed to be going an extra thorough cleaning, which again, I'm like, how hard is this to do with magic?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem like this would take that long. And then it says several grimy portraits had been scrubbed, much to the displeasure of their subjects. And I'm like, do you prefer being dirty? Like paintings?
Well, it says that they were wincing as they felt their raw pink faces. And you kind of have to wonder, it's like, are we changing the art?
Well,
you know,
maybe.
like what if the depiction of the art was supposed to include like a grimy faced human being?
Well, that doesn't seem like then cleaning it would make it pink, though. It just would like be a cleaner brown.
A cleaner brown.
Yeah. Right?
That's what I would tend to think.
This seems to me that they've just gotten comfortable being dirty.
Maybe.
Yeah. And they're just like, wait a second. I don't like this at all. Magic's supposed to be kind of messy or something.
Yeah. It's a grungy place.
Yeah, I know, right? With all of its shippy floors and stuff. McGonagall, still on the warpath, says, Longbottom, kindly do not reveal that you cannot even perform a simple switching spell in front of anyone from Durmstrang. Just like, oh, okay. Just thanks for bringing that up, Professor. And then Professor McGonagall barked at the end of a particularly difficult lesson, which Neville had accidentally transplanted his own ears onto a cactus, which... whoops.
I know. Yeah. It's a simple mistake.
Well, maybe this is why he's so good at biology, though. You know, he's listened to the plants.
He knows the name of plants.
He knows the name of plants.
Or
exactly.
At least the sound of
the
them.
sound. Yeah.
Because his ears.
Because his ears. Really good listening.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Oh, don't make Name of the Wind references.
Ben, I don't know what you're talking about.
Not now. Anyway, then we get a little reminder of each of the Hogwarts house colors. We have red with gold for Gryffindor, blue with bronze Eagle.
Eagle
for Ravenclaw.
Or Ravenclaw.
Yeah. Yellow with a black badger for Hufflepuff, and green with a silver serpent for Slytherin.
Ben, when they make the TV show, they have got to do the bronze eagle for Ravenclaw.
They have to get this right.
They have got to get this right. This is your chance.
This is paramount, people. This is paramount.
It's not hard. It's right here.
It's right in the books.
We do not need the blue, silver raven for Ravenclaw.
No.
Bring back the bronze.
Bring back the bronze.
We can do it. We can do it.
But then we get the largest banner of all bore the Hogwarts coat of arms, lion, eagle, badger, and snake united around a large letter H, which feels just like a little bit of foreshadowing even for like next year, like we are stronger.
Yeah, when the Sorting Hat gives its speech about being united.
Yes, exactly.
And all of that, yeah.
The other thing I always think is kind of interesting about this, and I don't know why me and you have this so baked into our heads, because it never, I don't think, says it, but I tend to think of the color for the Hogwarts coat of arms as being like purple.
Yeah, I also, I think that as well. I think probably because when you meet Dumbledore for the first time, he's wearing purple robes.
Maybe that's what it is. And I guess to be clear, I imagine like the shield to be like gold, but I picture like the backdrop to kind of be like that royal purpley color. And I think I even had as a child before the movies came out, I had like a purple flag from Hogwarts hanging in my bedroom. So it could be even like that.
Yeah.
But that might have just been like somebody making a royal Hogwarts looking something.
Could have been.
But it wasn't canonical. But either way, I always think of it as purple.
I always think of those as being like the most canonical things because those were like before the movie. It was like the Harry Potter merch that existed before the movies.
Right.
So they're not based off of anything in the movies. They're just like toys based off of things you read about.
Yes.
Which to me is like these are the real ones.
The real ones.
This isn't based off Daniel Radcliffe or Emma Watson or anything. This is just Harry and Hermione.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just it. In pure form.
Let's see here.
Next up, we get a check-in with Fred and George, who are discussing Ludo Bagman. Unbeknownst to us, the reader says, "It's a bummer, all right." George is saying gloomily to Fred, "But if he won't talk to us in person, we'll have to send him a letter after all, or we'll have to stuff it into his hand. He can't avoid us forever." Yeah, so this is them talking about Ludo Bagman stiffing them on their bet from the Quidditch World Cup.
Yeah, the stuffing it into his hand, though, is kind of an interesting piece because it makes it seem like there's almost something like magically binding about having the letter put in your hand.
Right.
Because
like they're serving him as papers or something.
Yes, exactly. It's like, okay, fine, I'll read it because I have to now. But like otherwise, it's just like he could just throw it away.
Right. If you stuff it into his hand, you may as well just say it to him in person.
Right. Yeah, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We get another little nudge here. You two guys have any ideas on how to get into the Triwizard Tournament? Harry asked. Thought any more about trying to enter? And let's see here.
Well, they start treating Ron kind of poorly again. They're sort of like in the last chapter, like, "What do you say, Ron? If we figure out how to get in, you want to enter?" Like they're kind of being very inclusive of him, but clearly all like the Bagman stress is like they're taking their frustration out on him now.
Oh, that's a good
he's
point.
Like,
yeah.
"Who's avoiding you?" And he's like, "Wish you would." And like, "What's a bummer?" said Ron. He said, "Having a nosy git like you for a brother."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then we get another piece of McGonagall sassiness. Speaking of people getting things off their chest, I asked McGonagall how the champions are chosen, but she wasn't telling, said George bitterly. She just told me to shut up and get on with transfiguring my raccoon.
McGonagall feisty this chapter.
She is feisty. And now I need to know, do you think that they were trying to transfigure the raccoon into an onion or?
Oh, into a raccoonion?
A raccoonion?
I can only imagine. What else would you turn a raccoon into?
I can't think of literally anything else.
That's all. Okay, so probably they're transfiguring the raccoon into an onion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
A raccoonion.
A raccoonion. New head
Yes.
canon.
Yes. Yeah. Also, do you think she actually said, "Shut up"? She's like, "How do they choose the champions?" "Shut up, Weasley."
Maybe.
Yeah. It seems like maybe he's paraphrasing, but I don't know. The way she's treating everyone else.
I know, yeah. It's only going to get more.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Wonder what the tasks are going to be, said Ron thoughtfully. I bet we could do them, Harry. We've done dangerous stuff before.
Yeah. He says, not in front of, Fred says, not in front of a panel of judges you haven't. And I'm like, yeah, like that matters. It's not in front of a panel of judges, but in front of, Voldemort and 100 Dementors.
Exactly.
I've done it in front of that. Does that count? Fred?
Yeah, Fred.
Fred, you think you could have handled that? Huh? Yeah, I don't think so. I didn't think so. Jeez. Even Ron has gotten through some dangerous situations, like with the chess set and stuff.
That's true. Yeah. And at the very least, he's down there with Lockhart, but on the other side of the rock wall.
On the other side of the rock wall. It doesn't exactly go kill any basilisks or anything like that.
Right.
He got away from Aragog. Pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, the car helped, but
the car helped.
Yeah.
Yeah. He brought the car.
Sort of. We'll give him credit.
Harry. Yeah.
Let's see here. The heads of the participating schools are always on the panel, said Hermione, because all three of them were injured during the tournament of 1792 when a cockatrice, the champions were supposed to be catching, went on the rampage.
There you go, which I think is actually bad logic because he's like, because we know that all three of them were injured in 1972, it means that they're always on the panel. I don't think that's necessarily if so facto or anything right there.
Right. 1792 rather. I think you said 1972.
Oh, well, 1792. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here. She says she read about it in Hogwarts History, though, of course, that book's not entirely reliable. A revised history of Hogwarts would be a more accurate title, or a highly biased and selective history of Hogwarts, which glosses over nastier aspects of the school.
Rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it?
It really does. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. She does such a good job with these things.
Yes. But of course, she's talking about the house elves and it says, not once in over 1,000 pages does Hogwarts History mention that we are all colluding in the oppression of 100 slaves. Do you think that means that she has completely reread the 1,000 page book since finding this out?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes,
Got it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It is also really surprising that they're not mentioned, though.
It is surprising because I think that we will go on to learn that it is the largest population of house elves per anything. So
I think so.
That statistic alone just seems like it would be mentioned.
It does seem like that. And the fact that they're not, though, does, it does make Hermione have a pretty good point.
True.
Yeah.
True. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Which is almost always the case with SBEW, where it's like, it's funny how it's almost written in this kind of like nagging and irritating way, but the whole time Hermione is right.
I know that's sort of the thing. When you come back, it's sort of like it's frustrating how everyone's treating her, even though she's frustrating everyone.
Yes.
With this, but like even that's what this is sort of about. It said she'd been badgering Harry and Ron ever since to wear the badges, and it's just like yes, always badgering. Very good tact. Or I think it's funny because she's always badgering Ron about tact, and yet here she is, just
not having
it.
Yes,
yeah.
with this,
cornering people, shaking the collection tin under their noses. Neville does sign up. She gets him on the list because of her impressive glowers.
Yes.
Yeah. Neville's not having a great chapter. He's been forced to join SPEW. His ears are on a cactus.
Right.
Yeah. She's like, what am I doing?
Why is it always me?
I'm just in the background, guys.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, let's shoot forward just a little bit because now we have the return of Hedwig, who has a letter in response from Harry's extremely well-written one to Sirius earlier in the chapter.
I know. It says, nice try, Harry, which I was like, that's generous.
Was it?
Was it a nice try? Yeah.
Right, yeah. But... It almost he goes on to say, I'm back in the country and well hidden, and it almost feels like he should have just included like too late.
Yeah, too late. I'm already back. Seems like you could also say like too late. I'm well hidden. Dumbledore found me a safe spot to hide. Like,
the communication breakdown amongst characters in the Harry Potter series is basically the crux of how it all works.
Basically. I mean, Sirius in particular, we know is just the world's worst communicator as well.
Eventually he tries with Harry. He gives him the mirrors.
Yeah.
He's like, we can talk to each other.
I know.
Whenever you need me.
I know. Whenever. Like, this is the thing you have to realize about that is that they have all these ways they're like have to overcome communicating. Like Hedwig just sort of guessing where Sirius is and eventually finding him, and these like very slow, very coded messages. And it's like he has the mirrors the whole time if he's just willing to go back to Grimmauld Place and get them, which he's not.
Right.
Which, reminder, he's also not even willing to go get his wand yet. Like he's operating wandless in all of this.
He still has no wand.
I don't think he has a wand. Yeah.
Wow, man. I guess I've never really considered that before.
Right? Still wandless.
Still wandless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
presumably that's where it it is, because next book he will definitely have it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Also a reminder that he is able to do animagus form without his wand.
Without his wand.
Where Peter, on the other hand, we think needs one.
Yeah, exactly. Because he's not as good a wizard. Yeah.
We also get the nudge to not use Hedwig. Keep changing owls and don't worry about me. Just watch out for yourself. Don't forget what I said about your scar. Sirius.
I love his reasoning too. Or like Hermione says, they're not native birds. A snowy owl returning to wherever he's hiding. And I'm like, do you know what kind of ornithologist you're going to have paying attention to figure this out?
Right.
Like how many, I have one of those birdhouses in my backyard that takes pictures when the birds are eating the birdseed from it.
Yeah.
And it's super fun. But if you thought I was noticing the same cardinal coming back, like as far as I'm concerned, it's a different cardinal every time.
Right.
You know, I'm not like, oh, wait a second. I know this one.
However, if it was a snowy owl, would you start to think it was the same one every time?
Well, yeah, I probably would.
Yeah.
You're right. I guess that's a good point.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, who's out there they don't have birdhouse cameras in the Hogsmeade area.
That's true.
You know?
But maybe they're like big time. Maybe bird watching is like a huge activity for wizards.
They're like, we have like not much to do.
Right.
Like magic takes care of almost everything.
We just look to the sky.
We just looked at the sky and like, oh my God, there's that bird again. I wonder where he's going. Probably somewhere secretive and weird.
Right.
Yeah.
The real thing that's going on here is that Harry is going to start to be very isolated from all the people that we know love him.
Yes.
Including Hedwig. Yeah. So pretty much what's about to happen is just that one of Harry's old, reliable, trusty friends is about to, not be able to be there for him.
Yes. So Hedwig is going to get cut off very soon. Ron will get cut off as well. And then Hagrid will become less available because he's interested in Madame Maxime and is handling the Scroots. And yeah, Harry is going to become very isolated here in the future. Let's see. Beauxbaton and Durmstrang are on their way, though, which makes even potions more bearable, as it was half an hour shorter. Yay. But then they're all lining up outside and says the heads of houses were ordering their students into lines. Weasley, straighten your hat, says McGonagall. And then she scowls at Parvati, who asks her to remove a large ornamental butterfly. I'm like, McGonagall, chill.
Yes, Ms. Patel, take that ridiculous thing out of your hair.
Yeah,
it is like McGonagall, what do you think is going to happen?
I know
when these people arrive.
They're going to be like, excuse me, Hogwarts is great. There was that girl with the butterfly jewelry in her hair, and
kind of ridiculous.
Gotta tell you, not impressed. Not impressed.
None whatsoever.
Thought you had. We call them standards here.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. This is like those videos where it's like when you have house guests come over and they just like kick in the door and run past you and like look in all of your closets looking for like where you've hidden your mess.
Right. Yeah.
It's like because that's what people are looking for.
That's what they're doing.
When they come over.
They're coming over. They're trying to figure out like you're not clean. I know it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so let's see here.
Hermione herself is about to get kind of feisty here, I think. So they're out there waiting for it, and Ron says, "How do you reckon they're coming? The train?" Hermione's like, "I doubt it." He's like, "Why?"
How then? Broomsticks, Harry suggested, looking up at the sky. I don't think so. Not from that far away.
Yeah. A port key, Ron suggested, or they could apparate. He says, you can't apparate inside the Hogwarts grounds. How do I have to tell you? Skips over the port key one because that would actually be a pretty reasonable explanation.
Right.
Yeah. But in the meantime, I was like offering no explanation for herself, just shooting down ideas left and right.
Yes. It's like we're just covering all the means of travel that we know, Hermione.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I know. She's just like, but she's, it's his attitude like, those are ridiculous suggestions, boys.
Right.
Come on.
Right. Yes. What if instead they were like, how about a giant house being driven by like elephantine-sized horses?
I know, right?
Like, you know what, that one makes sense.
You're right. How do you think they'll get here? I don't know. Maybe a giant carriage? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like,
I think they'll probably be coming out of a toilet in the lake. Don't be ridiculous, Ronald. Yeah.
What a ship idea.
What a...
Okay.
I love how they're all out there too, and Harry gets over it pretty quick. He says he wished they'd hurry up. Maybe the foreign students were preparing for a dramatic entrance, but Harry's just out there starting to feel cold. He's like, you know what? This was exciting for like 10 minutes, but it's cold.
I'm chilly.
I want to go back inside. I'll see him later.
Right. But then Dumbledore announces the delegation from Beauxbaton approaches, and then out of nowhere, Dennis Creevy, who I may remind you is a first year, who fell into the lake, traveling across for the first time, is Muggle-born. Is about to really have some backbone.
He is about to be. I mean, he's going to have. The Creevy brothers have a little more backbone than you'd think in this particular book.
They do.
But they are like Dennis is being weirdly savage right here. Says there was or seen something large, much larger than a broomstick, or indeed 100 broomsticks, was hurtling across the deep blue sky toward the castle, growing larger all the time. One of the first years shrieked, "It's a dragon!"
To which Dennis Creevy responds, "Don't be stupid. It's a flying house."
Don't be stupid. It's not that ridiculous of a guess. It's not even that far off.
Guys, everything about this scene is ridiculous.
I know.
All of it.
It says Dennis's guess was closer. I mean, kind of. There's like, it's a flying house just because the carriage is house size, but it's being pulled by giant winged creatures.
Yes.
You know?
Powder blue horse-drawn carriage.
Yes, powder blue horse-drawn carriage.
Let's see here.
Which is it does kind of remind me of like at the beginning of Crimes of Grindelwald when they're using the Thestral-drawn carriage.
Yes.
Yeah, like flying through in the rainstorm, the world's worst prison transfer ever.
Yeah, it goes so badly.
It goes so badly.
Yeah.
Oh.
Let's see here. And it says that it's pulled through the air by a dozen winged horses, all Palominos, and each the size of an elephant.
Wow.
Which is kind of unbelievable because if my memory serves, I think that there's only a dozen students inside of this very large house, which means that it effectively requires one elephant-sized flying horse to fly each student.
That's a really big horse.
It's a really, really big
big horse. Yeah.
It's like, imagine a horse, double it.
Yeah. About elephant sized. Probably.
Yeah.
Here we go again, though. The front three rows of students drew backward as the carriage hurtled even lower, coming into land at tremendous speed. Then, with an almighty crash that made Neville jump backward onto a Slytherineer's foot. Poor Neville. Glad we got that update.
Right. Yes. just a moment where you can see this Slytherin fifth year just glowering at Neville, being like, Hey, what's up with that?
Especially because, like, why are the Slytherin fifth years standing behind the Gryffindor fourth years? Like, it said the heads of houses were organizing them all. And it's just like, all right, Gryffindor's all over here. Snape's like, Slytherin's here. You guys over there next to the Gryffindors. You stand behind Longbottom.
Yeah. He's going to jump. We're going to make a point of it.
Yes.
I've put in a good word with the narrator of the story.
Yeah. Don't worry. It'll get mentioned.
Yes.
Yeah.
We then learn that the horses themselves, the really large ones, are golden in color. So a little piece of trivia there.
Golden horses, fiery red eyes.
Fiery red eyes.
Some intimidating giant horses.
They truly are.
Yeah.
They truly are indeed. Which, I mean, there is a giant mystery. There's a very like big whodunit kind of going on.
Yeah.
And so the fiery eyes, I feel like could be like, could someone from Beauxbaton be dangerous?
They probably like look kind of evil.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
We also get the detail that the Beauxbaton coat of arms is 2 crossed golden wands, each emitting 3 stars.
Yep.
So just another little piece of trivia to include.
Pretty good.
We learn that Madame Maxine is just the largest woman that Harry has ever seen in his life.
Yep.
With a shoe the size of a child's sled.
Sure, very specific.
Very, very specific.
Yeah.
Sometimes I need to believe that there's some hyperbole going on when it comes to these descriptions because like Hagrid has like dustpan sized hands.
Yeah.
And it's like they can't be that big, right?
I don't know.
That's
that would
real
make
big.
them kind of bigger. It's like this is like the size of trash can lids, right? Is that what it is for Hagrid's hands?
Hagrid's hands, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, then it says the horse's hooves are larger than dinner plates, which almost looks like Hagrid's hands are bigger than the horse's hooves.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. They do require a forceful hand, as we're about to learn.
Well, yes, indeed.
Yes.
Okay, let's see here.
Yeah, so Madame Maxine, very striking, says As she stepped in the light flooding from the entrance hall, she was revealed to have a handsome olive-skinned face, large, black, liquid-looking eyes. So we have fiery eyes and liquid-looking eyes.
Yep.
And a rather beaky nose, which I feel like makes you, it's like, I feel like Madam Pince has always kind of got that like bird-like appearance, like beaky, and you kind of like never like Madam Pince. So it's kind of like a comparison to make you not trust Madame Maxime or something.
Maybe so. Yep, you're right. But then we get some more of that like Dumbledore politeness. My dear Madame Maxine, he said, welcome to Hogwarts. Dumbledore, I hope I find you well.
Oh, excellent. Excellent Madame Maxime voice.
Thanks.
Thank you.
In excellent form, I thank you, said Dumbledore. My pupils, said Madame Maxime. It's like,
oh man,
it's hard to go deep and French at the same time.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But then let's see. We learned that there's just about a dozen boys and girls, which seems like so few.
But notably, boys and girls.
Boys and girls, yes.
We don't have gender coded schools.
Yes. So in the movies, it seems all the Durmstrang students are boys and all of the Beauxbaton students are girls. That's not how it is. There's boys and girls from each school. Although in the movies they do get the colors correct. The Beauxbaton do wear blue. The Durmstrang do wear red.
Blood
red.
Yeah. There you go.
Don't
Good
be.
save.
Yeah. Hold on. Wow.
But then we also learn that the Beauxbaton students are shivering, which was unsurprising given that their robes seem to be made of fine silk, which I guess maybe makes sense for like high fashion in France or something. But they are staring up at Hogwarts with apprehensive looks on their faces.
Not impressed.
Yeah, not impressed whatsoever, despite all the cleaning that it underwent. Imagine if they had seen it last week.
Imagine, I know, if they came in here and all the paintings were still disgusting. I mean, God forbid they see the Owlery.
I know. Yep. And let's see here. Where is the line from Hermione? Because I feel like she is like, oh, come on, it's not even that cold.
Oh, I know, right? I feel like, I don't think I highlighted it, but Madame Maxime asks if Karkaroff has arrived yet, and Dumbledore says he should be here any moment. Would you like to wait here and greet him, or prefer to go inside? And she's like, I'm going inside. Like. Don't want to be part of any of this pomp and circumstance or anything.
Harry's over there shivering like, can I go with them?
Can I go with them,
Yeah.
please? Yeah. Of course, she does have one concern though before she goes inside, which is who is going to take care of the horses? And Dumbledore's like, our care of magical creatures teachers will be delighted to take care of them. The moment he has returned from dealing with a slight situation that has arisen with some of his other charges. Which like even Dumbledore is like, yeah, those scroots were I'm gonna give you a pass, but like I wrote it down.
Let's hope they die soon.
Let's hope they die, Hagrid. Okay, that was a pretty bad call. All right,
Yeah.
we're gonna see.
Right.
But don't like it. So she continues, says, they are very strong. Dumbledore says, I assure you, Hagrid will be up to the job, which indeed he will.
Yep.
She doesn't think so. She says, will you please inform these Hagrids that the horses only drink single malt whiskey? To which every time I read this line, I am always like, I must be remembering it wrong. Because like, are you kidding? Are you like... Excuse me? Are the horses drunk all the time?
little ship face.
Are these are some ship-faced horses, man? They're only drinking whiskey?
They would be so dehydrated.
They'd be so dehydrated.
Oh man,
this is probably why I took up. This is probably why they're late.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, it's like I mean, this is never mind like a DUI. This is like the vehicle is drunk.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm not driving under the influence, officer. The car is drunk. Yeah, I didn't drink anything. I poured. Don't worry, I poured all the whiskey right in the gas tank. So nothing to worry about. We're fine. It was good. Oh my gosh. All right. So Madame Maxime eventually leaves her very ship-faced horses to go inside. And now they're wondering, they all assume that the Durmstrangs are going to be arriving in the exact same way. How big will the Durmstrang horses be? What kind of alcohol will they drink? But then Ron demonstrates he has some very good hearing here. He's the first one to hear the Durmstrang ship arriving. Yeah, it says, could you hear something? Harry listened. A loud, oddly eerie noise was drifting toward them from out of the darkness. A muffling, rumbling, sucking sound as though an immense vacuum cleaner toilet were moving along the riverbed. Yep. There we go.
We just need to insert like a really good like stock toilet flush right here.
Yeah, just here, just so you kind of know exactly what the lake sounds like.
So imagine this, except imagine it lake-sized.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
It's like I was there.
I know.
I can see the mast coming right out of the middle. It's a mast, he said to Ron and Hermione. It had a strange skeletal look about it, as though it were a resurrected wreck. Every single thing, every description of the Durmstrang students and Karkaroff and the ship is going to be phrased to make you distrust them a lot.
Yes, yeah. And I mean, like, Karkaroff is a truly massive, like, red herring. And even in the movies, I think there's another one of those situations where it's like, I feel like, kind of like what I was saying about like Barty Crouch Jr. earlier, when he's like teaching them too well about things. In the films, there's actually a scene where Karkaroff like sneakily goes into the Goblet of Fire room, and it's just him by himself, and it like closes the door behind him, and it's like, what's he doing?
What's he doing?
It's like, even at the end of the movie, it's like, it's not like in the movies, it is Karkaroff who put his name in there. It's just like, it's just a scene that is meant to make you think he did it.
Yeah. But if you go back and like know the truth, it's just sort of like, well, what was this here for? This did nothing.
Yes. It's like, this scene should not be included.
Why is he being sneaky? But like, there's no reason for him to be sneaky. It's just a way to throw off the audience.
Exactly.
Which I think is not like the audience should always be able to figure it out. Like, it should be there.
Yes.
Like, it's okay if it's confusing and really difficult to figure out, but like completely unfair play like that, I don't like.
Yeah, I agree.
But either way, it says the boat is strangely skeletal, as though it was a resurrected wreck. That makes it sounds very like piratey, kind of like, swashbuckling, steal your stuff kind of ship.
Dangerous, yeah.
Dangerous. Ship, he said, all of them, Harry noticed, seem to be built along the lines of Crabbe and Goyle. They will remove that line will be like removed later when they take their like large furs off, so that it's like, oh, they actually weren't that big. They just looked that way. But it's like, you always believe the first lie kind of thing, where it's like, they're all built along the lines of Crabbe and Goyle. That immediately makes you, the reader, feel like, oh, they're all like Crabbe and Goyle.
They're all going to be like large, muscular, oafish, maybe like kind of jockish or something.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, then we also get we get the introduction to Karkaroff. Dumbledore, he called heartily as he walked up the slope. How are you, my dear fellow? How are you?
So jovial.
Yeah. And I love Dumbledore's response. Blooming. Thank you, Professor Karkaroff. I'm going to start responding more often. It's like, how are you today? I'm blooming.
I'm blooming. Karkaroff. I love the description of his voice too, which Karkaroff had a fruity, unctuous voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know what? The book will not let you forget the unctuosity.
The unctuosity of that voice. Yeah.
Yes. It will continue to come up.
Yes.
It also says that that he was tall and thin like Dumbledore, but his white hair was short, and his goatee, finishing in a small curl, did not entirely hide his rather weak chin.
Right. The finishing in a small curl, that's in parentheses for, I don't know why it needs to be in parentheses, other than like, but the fact that it's in parentheses makes it feel more like evil than if it was just like his goatee, which finished in a small curl, did not entirely hide his weak chin. It's like the finishing in a small curl is like, just so you know, it's in a small curl. Like, that's sort of like Jafar, like evil kind of looking.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. He's the kind of guy who's going to do like,
he's going to be doing, yes, very evil. Yes. Weak chin. That may as well, weak chin makes you think weak character.
Right.
Dear old Hogwarts, he said, looking up at the castle, smiling through his rather yellow teeth. Just what a dirty guy. And then it says his smile did not extend to his eyes, which remained cold and shrewd. So everything about him is coming off as false.
Right.
And then he immediately displays favoritism as well, summoning just a single student. Victor, come along into the warmth. And then, so just immediately you've got pirate ship, you've got Crabbe and Goyle, you've got unctuous voice, you've got a smile that doesn't extend, you've got a curly beard, or weak chin, yellow teeth, favoritism. Like, it is 3 paragraphs of otherwise like a pretty good description, but like you immediately just like these guys.
They are up to no
They are
good.
not great.
Like if they were the villains, you would get to the end of the book and you would be like, yeah, it was pretty obvious.
It was pretty obvious.
It was pretty obvious what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So not the best there. Then of course we have our huge cliffhanger for this particular chapter where we discover that Victor is not just one of the students, but is in fact Victor Crumb.
Harry, it's Crumb. Dun dun dun.
Whoa! And
No
that
way.
concludes chapter 15 of Goblet of Fire.
Yes,
Jay,
it does.
do you have a review for us?
I sure do, Ben. Let's see. What do we have here? This comes from biggest Harry Potter nerd ever.
No way, the biggest?
The biggest.
What an honor to have him here on the show.
They say, best podcast ever. Hey, brother, this is one of my favorite podcasts ever. I have 2 questions. First question, could a true student from any house, if he or she got a hold of the hat, pull out their house's relic? This has been a long-standing theory I've had and wanted to hear your take on it. And second question, what in the world does Dumbledore mean in King's Cross Station? Of course it's all in your head, Harry, but why shouldn't that mean it's real? This quote has confused me since I first read the story, and I've read the story 6 times. Keep up the good work. Can't wait to hear what comes next.
Oh man, well, two really great questions.
Yeah.
I think the idea that the Sorting Hat would be capable of delivering any of the Founder's objects to someone worthy from their house is a concept that we used in Ron
our
and Hufflepuff.
Ron and Hufflepuff story to get Ron to pull the cup out.
Yes.
So we have used that idea before. I don't know if that's actually how it would work.
It's curious to say the least, because I think the Sword of Gryffindor has rather peculiar powers associated with it.
It
which
does.
is that like it can present itself to a Gryffindor in need.
Yeah.
Which then it's sort of like is the Sorting Hat even necessary?
Right, because like Harry getting it out or Ron getting it out of the pond seems to also count.
It does seem to also count, but like in that particular situation, like Dumbledore has to like remind Snape of the circumstances required for the sword to behave in the way that it's supposed to.
Right, so it doesn't like actually materialize there. Like Snape does put it there.
Right. So then the big question is almost like, does the fact that the hat once belonged to Godric Gryffindor in particular, and what it is capable of manifesting is the Sword of Gryffindor.
Right.
Because it does end up also materializing it yet again for Neville.
And then there's like the very clever like play on words between sorting hat and sword in hat.
Yes, which I've always sort of loved. Yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely feels like that's like intentional.
Yeah. The other thing is that just because we know of 4 specific, like 1 relic per founder, like it doesn't mean those are the only relics that they might have left behind.
Sure.
Like the sword seems like very much this is like the Gryffindor relic, and the cup even seems like this is like the Hufflepuff cup. And like we know about the diadem of Ravenclaw. Which I could even say, you could even say like, yeah, sure, that's like the Ravenclaw thing. But then the locket just feels like a personal item, you know, that Slytherin did own.
He did own, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's passed from, like heir to heir, I guess, because the Gaunts do eventually have it.
Yeah.
And our theory with the locket is that it was always sort of meant to provide instructions on how to get to the Chamber of Secrets.
Right.
And especially because if you can only open it speaking Parseltongue, it would basically ensure that the only person who could find it is somebody who was descended from Slytherin himself.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's a very curious question in terms of like what would be the circumstances under which it would be behaving as it does with the sword.
Yeah, like a true Slytherin would a true Slytherin in need be able to pull the locket out?
Like it seems like the hat would almost have to like agree, because we know that there's a basilisk in the Chamber of Secrets, which is quite dangerous.
Yeah.
So you would have to think that like the hat is not just going to be like, here's the key to danger. Of course, this is only our theory, so it's not like that's even confirmed.
Right. Yeah, that's only our theory. Maybe let's try a different one. Like if it was the cup, for example, then.
Yes.
Yeah.
What would be like the dire circumstances under which the cup would be necessary?
Right. Yeah. Like we don't know exactly what the cup does either. That's the other problem here.
It is the other problem. We know from Hepzibah Smith that it supposedly has all sorts of magical powers, but she hasn't tested them.
She has not tested them.
The things we've attributed to it is turning water into wine because
Yep.
it just feels very like in keeping with the other themes of the story.
Yeah, like kind of like Holy Grail-esque.
Very much.
That's like the most famous magic cup, obviously.
Yes, for sure. The thing that we used it for specifically in our Ron series was for it to multiply Phoenix tears.
Yes, and to purge the
Piece of Voldemort's soul.
Voldemort's soul. Well, that's what the Phoenix tears did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, and then the piece of soul has to go somewhere.
Has to go into Ron.
Yeah. Oh.
Spoilers if you haven't watched that one, but you should because we spent a long time on it.
We did. Yeah. Like 10 parts or something.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know that we have a canonical explanation. I don't hate a circumstance where it's possible.
Yeah.
Because I do think that each of the even though it belonged to Godric Gryffindor, all the founders put their minds into it, their intelligence into it. The real question to me would almost be, does Voldemort's tampering like impact anything?
Yeah.
Relative, like, like once it's in the room of requirement, is it stuck in the room of requirement because of the special magic of the room of requirement?
That could be the case too. But then it's sort of like, where is the sword before it comes to Harry? Is it just sort of like in non-being, or does it have like a base point it returns to?
That's another one where it's like, could it be like in Godric Gryffindor's like grave, like where he's like buried with it, like in the way that many people are buried with their wands?
Yeah, I mean that would make sense to me.
That would make sense to me as well. Like, and it sort of like is always toggling back to its original resting location.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? I had one more thought about this that I thought was interesting. Yeah, I mean, the locket obviously ends up being massively protected. The cup ends up being, placed inside of Gringotts. So it's tricksy to know prior to.
It is. So, well, like the locket, like if it was in the potion in the cave, could the Sorting Hat retrieve it if this was one of the Sorting Hat's powers?
Say that again?
Like if the locket, like before Regulus takes the locket out of the cave.
Yep.
If the locket is just in the potion in the cave, could the Sorting Hat, if this is one of its powers, could it retrieve the locket?
I don't know, because even Dumbledore like tries to like do all the magic to the potion itself, and he can't vanish the potion.
Right.
You can't summon the locket. I don't know. Yeah, it's complicated, and we don't have enough precedent. I was going to say the other thing too is that we've always long believed that the Sword of Gryffindor would have been the obvious last artifact that Voldemort would have been using in Godric's Hollow, killing the son of two Gryffindor students.
Yeah.
Like in order to create his final Horcrux.
I mean, it's so perfect.
It's so perfect. Like it almost can't be anything else.
Yeah.
Like it would be the obvious, noteworthy kill that finishes his mission and ensures his immortality. And his
but then where's the sword?
But then where's the sword? Yeah.
Right.
So that's also where it's fascinating that it's like the Thrice defying him is part of like the prophecy involved there. And it's sort of like, if they keep defying him, is there a world where like that is how Voldemort came to learn how the Sword of Gryffindor works? Because you'd have Gryffindors who are the ones who are defying, and therefore maybe it's coming to their aid under those circumstances.
And then this is like a movie thing, but it's like, so it's hard to know like how canon you want it to happen. But like in Malfoy Manor, when Griphook, or when Bellatrix has the sword and then like Voldemort shows up and starts just like killing people because Harry got away. Like they cut back to the scene where you can see that Griphook has died and the sword just vanishes from his hand.
Right.
And it's sort of like it would kind of make sense if like when Neville needed it, it vanished from there and went to the hat. But the way the movie presents it, the sword disappears, goes to an unknown location, and then later Neville pulls it from the hat.
Right.
It's not like the act of pulling it pulled it from Malfoy Manor. So where was it in that short limbo time?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's again where I would have to go back to Godric Godric Gryffindor's gravestone.
Yeah, I kind of think that's probably like the resting point too in my brain. The other question, what was the other question? On this particular review?
Yes, it's the is this all just happening inside of my head? And he says, of course it's happening inside of your head, but why should that mean it isn't real?
Okay, so my interpretation of this particular line is that it's actually about, it is like a very meta comment, I think, about the Harry Potter fandom, because it's happening at the very end of the 7th book, and the entire fandom has spent 7-8 years reading the books and coming together, and it's like all about to end.
Right.
And so I think what this line is supposed to be is like, yes, the story's over, but that doesn't and it was just a book, but it's real because you, the readers, are out there and you make it real.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
That's always sort of how I've interpreted it as well, because that scene itself is rather unusual, because it's like Dumbledore is explaining to Harry inside of that scene information that could not have come from anybody other than Dumbledore.
Right.
So it's like, it's not like all Dumbledore is doing is confirming or like using information Harry always knew, but maybe finally grasping it. Dumbledore telling him stories about his childhood fling with Grindelwald and the fear about who killed his sister Ariana. That's not stuff that Harry has in the back of his mind. He's just never properly handled. It's like Dumbledore has to be the one telling him.
Right.
Which is why I think it makes it confusing. But I do completely agree with your sentiment. I think that's the story itself winking out of the book at you, the reader. And it's these stories can be as real as you need them to be.
Right.
Despite the fact that you just created them as this universe inside of your own head. And we've all done that. We've all probably done it differently. Yeah. In some ways. But then it's fascinating how often we've all done it the same way.
Exactly. It's the story, of course, when you read it, can only happen inside your head. But the fandom, the people you meet, the places you go, that's all real.
Yes.
Yeah.
And really, when it boils down to it, not to make it overly sappy, but it's the point of this endeavor that we're doing right now. It's the point of bringing people together to enjoy it and to explain what our perspective on the story has been. And, as much time as we've spent with it, because we've had the opportunity to study the series semi-professionally.
I know.
is sort of it's to share that. It's to give it to everyone so that they can think about it in possibly new ways.
Yeah.
So it's I actually love that line. I think it's kind of wonderful.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they asked about it. That was a good question.
Yes, I know. I thought I was ooh, I know I'm going to read this one.
Yes. It's perfect.
It is a very good one. But otherwise, guys, I think that is going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and make sure you join us next week for Chapter 16, The Goblet of Fire, here on Through the Gryffindor.
Today's episode was edited by Ethan Edghill. Vaishon Brandon does our art. Catherine Stein is our production manager, and the show is hosted by me and Jonathan Carlin.